Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good day. So I know I don't usually make a Sunday video, but at the request of one of my athletes, I have decided to make a video on some tips to throw if you're flat-footed. So this is our last practice where we actually started working on this because my athlete decided to actually tell us that he was flat-footed. And this was one where we didn't know he was flat-footed, or I didn't know. If you look, two completely different throws. Alright, so let's analyze these and notice the differences. So let's back these up. Right here. So, let me start off by saying, if anyone wants to look at it like a professional thrower that's flat-footed, I have heard through rumors, and maybe, I think there's a video of Dane Miller maybe confirming it, maybe asking Mykolas Alekna himself, but it's rumored that Mykolas Alekna is really flat-footed. So, I'm not here to actually confirm that because I don't know him personally, but he certainly throws like he is. And I'll explain that in a little bit, because if you're flat-footed, you need to kind of throw a different way. One, because just like my athlete here, it will cause a lot of pain if you try and throw like a non-flat-footed thrower in your ankle, and he experiences a lot of pain in his Achilles and ankles. But when I made these changes, it started hurting a lot less for him to throw in terms of his ankles and stuff. So, but we'll get into that. So, let's just... Oh. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this new software. This is only the second video I've done on that. Let's get to the actual turning part. And I want you to notice the key differences here. Alright, we'll go there. Now, obviously, the bigger one is, he's starting in a different place. I don't know why, but whatever. I wasn't really paying attention to that. But if you notice that this ankle is a lot higher than this one. Alright? And there are a couple reasons for that. One, it's because it's a lot easier for him to think about the ankle up and then dropping, rather than him thinking about keeping the ankle up the entire time, because in this bottom video, when he thinks about that, he just ends up dropping it. He just ends up dropping it the entire time. And then it goes really high. And I'd rather him start higher and it to just stay and go down. But if you notice, when it starts a little higher for him, he's able to keep a lot more control because he's flat-footed. So one of the biggest reasons I am telling him to do this is because, one, it will hurt his ankle a lot less, because he won't have to keep trying to pick it up a lot more. And for flat-footed people, it's really hard to keep their heels up. Alright? So you'll see this a lot. I don't know if Reese Hoffa was flat-footed, but he kind of throws like a flat-footed person would, in terms of he never really has high heels in the throw, and he never really turns all the way. And not to say that's bad in any means. It's not ideal, but Reese Hoffa is also probably top 3 favorite shot putters of all time, for me, at least. So, it's not like I'm dogging on his technique. And I think his coach, Don Babb, is the best shot put coach to ever live outside of Art Venegas, obviously. But huge respect for him. And his coach. All right, but if you just notice the two differences here, and then so when he thinks about this, it's a lot easier for him to get over his left a lot more. If you look at that, that's a lot better than, if I can put in the right place, than this. Oh my god, hold on. Now I know these are in two different places, but if you notice, they are kind of similar, but his upper body is allowed to go out a lot more in here. And if you notice, the discus is way further back in this video compared to this video. Alright. So that's another thing that he just improved. That has nothing to do with the flat feet, but I figured while I'm here, I might as well actually just do a technical analysis of how well he's doing, because he's improved quite a bit. And you know what else this has done with these changes is it's really improved his sweep, because it changes the way his hips move. Because when his heel is up and then goes down a little bit, but is allowed to be a lot stiffer, now he doesn't have to have a super high sweep. Whereas compared to here, when you notice that he does that, his heel is completely basically on the ground, and then he kind of has to pop up, which makes his sweep go really high, which makes him have a really, really weird orbit. And if you notice too, because his ankle isn't that stiff, his left ankle, he can't really sprint that far across the ring in this bottom video. Where you see here, it's so much better, and he lands in a much tighter position. And a lot more of how he actually looks when he stand throws, where compared to here, and you notice he's in the bucket, which means that his left foot is, let me draw a line, his left foot is here instead of like here. So now he's landing open, loses a lot of power, whereas here he lands really good, a lot more of a heel-toe relationship. Oh damn, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Shoulders a lot further back, and now he's able to work a lot better. But I want you to notice something different, and this is really where you're going to see the main difference in the flat-footed throw, and it's going to be in the mechanics of his release. This is the biggest thing I changed. The back of the ring, I didn't really mention that much to him. I basically just told him don't even worry about turning that much. More as long, I told him as long as he gets somewhere around here, it's fine. Because if you notice this video, if it will go back, it really only turns to there. Would you stop? To there. Whereas here, it's facing more where he wants to go. Alright? So, it's very important. So, for flat-footed people, it's really hard for them to turn in the conventional sense. Alright? So, what we want to see is them not thinking about turning so much with their feet, but turning a lot more with their hips. And you should think about that anyway, but not worrying so much on the feet. Alright? And what this allows him to do is, one, be a lot more stable in his hips. And if you notice also with these, is that the knee isn't actually in line with the foot in this bottom one, where the knee is aligned with the foot here. But you see when the difference, so here, that's really good. I'm talking about his left knee, by the way. His left knee is here, and his foot is like here. That's really bad. Alright? Because that means it's not stable, and he's not in a biomechanically good place. And if y'all also notice the path of his sweep, really nice wide out, where here, Damn it. Come on. Okay, now we're going the right way. It's not nearly as wide. And his shoulders are really up. Where here he's a lot flatter with his orbit, which is with his shoulders, and he's making the orbit go up. He's making his high point go up with his hips instead of just jumping up in this bottom one and having a weird, unnatural orbit. So he's a lot more relaxed. And then the other thing I told him to do, which is really key, is so for flat-footed people, you really want to make sure that really they just turn their, wrong way, their left side to like here. And then what turns them all the way after that is the motion of his sweep. So the sweep carries them the rest of the way around. So if you notice, he just turns to there. But then when it sweeps, he turns just a little bit more, and now he's actually going where he needs to be. And that's very key. So use the sweep to help yourself get around if you're flat-footed all the way. Because if you try and turn all the way, it's very unlikely it's going to happen. It's going to be super hard to do, and it's going to be kind of painful on your joints. And you're going to do it really, really slow. All right? But this is a lot better of a way to get around that. And it makes sure that his sweep gets ahead of his left side, which causes him to have a lot more separation, which is why the discus is so far back, which is a good thing for him. Oh, I guess I should have also mentioned, this is totally off topic, he's a high schooler. I totally forgot to mention that. This is not a 2K, this is a 1/6, so it's good that he's catching it pretty far back. And honestly, this is about as far back as anybody will ever need to really catch a discus, unless you're insanely hypermobile or a woman. But for a male, this is perfect. All right, really good. So that's covering the back. The front, really, really good here because, well, let's first talk about the bottom actually. So if you notice, right here, he's trying to think about turning his foot, but he can't. And if you notice, he doesn't actually rotate. Or he tries to rotate, but he's off the ground a lot. And he's kind of just jumping. Because he's thinking about rotating, but I want you to notice the speed in this video of his release. You notice how like weird and disjointed that release is? It's not very fluid. Whereas you get here, oops, I'm going the wrong way. I want you to notice the difference in speed here. You see how much more fluid that is for him to do? It's a lot easier for him to throw. Whereas here, he's kind of, on the bottom, he's kind of forcing positions a lot more. So, what I'm going to tell you is not normally what I coach at all, actually. This is purely because he's flat-footed. And it's, don't think about turning with your feet. Think about turning with your hips, and the hip will turn the knee and the foot. All right? So you get, all right, gets here. You notice his hip goes around immediately. And then the foot and the knee just kind of follow it. But if you notice, this is so much more grounded. He's actually going out. He's not just going straight up. Oh, sorry, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. Yeah, okay. Here, super nice. I want you to compare this position to this position. You see how he's off the ground here? Super tense and just jumping. Whereas here, look, he actually goes forward into his block leg. Where here, he kind of just jumps in place. And I think thinking about not turning your feet so much and more just kind of focusing on turning your hips. But that's not to say the foot doesn't do anything. You should think about it more as a glide type of finish, where the right foot, and this is for right-handed throwers, obviously, but the right foot will push over the left foot or the block while the hip is turning. But you shouldn't just think about it purely rotational, because again, it's very hard for flat-footed people to actually turn like a Krauser or a Fabry, or like a Matthew Denny or something like that. Like, it's very, very hard for them to do that. All right, and you'll look at a lot of gliders; they don't actually really rotate in the conventional sense like them, where like they're really working the ground and stuff. Their sole purpose is to just turn the hip and get over that block, and not really so much thinking about staying on the ground as long as possible and stuff, because for flat-footed people, it's very hard for them to actually turn their feet. So it will slow them down, because if they think about really, really turning and cranking on the ground, you're going to get a throw like this that's really disjointed, instead of this nice fluid throw like this. So basically, the main takeaway for this is, if you're really flat-footed, like my athlete here, you really want to think about, basically, don't really think about turning and being rotational. Obviously, you're going to be rotational, but let the hips do the rotation. Don't think about really staying grounded very long. You want to stay grounded. I'm not saying jump, all right? I think my athlete here does an excellent job of what I was telling him to do. And by the way, this was a practice PR for him. I think this was something along the lines like 180, maybe approaching mid 180s to 190. Very, very nice throw. And this is one of his last throws, so he was pretty tired, actually. But, obviously there's still some positions he's working. This is the first day we actually worked on it. So obviously it's not as refined as it's going to be, but he's heading in the right direction. But you can see the early comings of the concepts that I'm trying to teach him here. All right, so hopefully this you have learned something. And honestly, chances are, if you see an elite thrower that doesn't really turn like a Fabry or a Kovacs or a Tom Walsh or a Ryan Krauser or something like that, and they throw more like a Reese Hoffa or a Mykolas Alekna, where they don't really turn that much in the conventional sense, but yet they still get a lot of rotational power. Mykolas Alekna is probably the most glaring example of it. Again, I'm not confirming or anything that he's flat-footed, but I've heard from pretty reliable sources that he is. But I can't confirm that, so I'm not going to really outright state it, but he definitely throws like he is. So it's not a bad thing. And one of my coaches has always said to me, play to your strengths. And in my case, play your strengths, as little of them as you have, because I didn't really have that much. So it was a big life lesson for me to play to my strengths. And you can't really fix flat feet that easy. So it's a lot easier to just build your technique around the flat feet instead of trying to train flat-footedness out of you. And rather than see it as a crutch, think of it as just throwing just different. All right, and it's really working for him, and he's gonna have a really good season. And yeah, other than that, hope you guys learned something. I can make a more detailed video about this if you guys want. Just let me know in the comments, and I can actually demonstrate the positions and what I'm talking about in a lot more detail. But let me know if you guys want that, and hope you guys learned something. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. See y'all later. Bye.